Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Loopy Doods podcast. It's me, Drew from Parks Bros, and...
It's me, Mario, from Mostly Coasters. Sorry, I was drinking right as you threw it to me.
Of course. But yeah, it's been a little while since we've done one of these, and by a little while, I mean, I think the last time we did a podcast like this was last August.
Yeah. Well, we did the one in person, We did the one in person in November, but that's edited. Literally coming out like a week before this. No, but the last time we actually did a normal one was about a year ago pretty much.
Yeah, it was we were talking about my experience at Universal for the first time, which has officially been more than a year now since I got back. Which is really crazy to think about. The fact that, I think a year ago today was my first full day back, or my second full day back from being in Florida for the 5 or 6 days I was there for the first time. Which, yeah, we're great. We're great at, constantly making content, right, Mario?
Some would say the best at constantly making content, yeah.
I mean, you're more consistent than I am right now. If you don't know, Mario's got some fantastic videos that have been coming out, whether it's reviews or vlogs. And yes, you literally are. I'm literally a video a week right now because of reasons.
Because of reasons. Nice.
Well, it's like a combination of things. I won't lie.
Well, since it's been so long since you've been to Florida, how have your opinions changed on it from the first time you've come?
I don't want to go back this year. Not that they're bad parks or anything. I just want to see different parks. I feel like I've seen those parks enough in the past year. It's not like they're my home parks either, where I can drive 20 minutes, an hour, or whatever it is to go. Well,
but you have the
constantly.
Season pass, right? So it's like you got the utility of your pass, and that's the best way to do it. Is just get as much as you can out of it, and then you don't have to go for a long period of time, and that's valuable.
Yeah. And I mean, for the 450, 550, something like that, around 600 at most, that pass provided me with, I believe, 14 different visits to their parks, which more than enough pays off for it twice, actually.
For sure.
So
I just had to buy one the other day because I'm no longer an employee of any of the Florida theme parks.
I mean, for the price, though, it's really not a bad offer, especially for 3 different parks if you're doing the 3-park pass.
Well, it's $100 cheaper for Florida residents as well.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's pricey, but
maybe in comparison to the other parks,
even like a SeaWorld Platinum Pass is north of $300. So, I mean, if you can get into Universal for the cheapest, around like $300 to $400, maybe a little more with tax, then that's really not bad, because I feel like you're getting a lot more out of the Universal parks.
I compare it to Disney Pass, because that would be Universal's #1 competitor, right?
Yeah, I think that's fair as well, and it's in that same price range.
Yeah, so. It blows up the comparison.
And available. Yeah. So
yeah, no, I literally
that's also better.
I have gift cards waiting just on my desk, ready to use for a Disney Pass, but now I can't even get a key.
Oh, no. I mean, they still have the Florida residence passes for your Disney World, and we need to get on those, but
no, Disneyland is just no more passes.
So you at least can get a pass for the Florida Universal Park. So that's definitely a positive there.
But speaking of your frequent posting on YouTube as of late, one of those videos you posted not too long ago, and realistically, if you filmed more than one video there, those are all probably going to come out before this comes out. But you went to Carowinds, and you filmed a vlog there, at least one. We got to talk about that, because Carowinds is one of the bucket list parks for me. I gotta ride Fury eventually. I really want to ride Copperhead Strike. It looks like a lot of fun. And of course, things like Afterburn, hello. But let's just start with that. Like, Carowinds. How is it? Would you recommend it? What are the top things there that you would recommend?
It's interesting. I think I had probably, like, retrospectively, I probably had like a, biasedly is not a word. I had a fantastic time. I'll start off by saying that. But I think it may have been heavily influenced by a lucky set of circumstances. I went like at the very beginning of June. I think it may have been like right before local schools were out for summer. So I had very low crowds. The only day that was somewhat busy was a Saturday, and I had already allotted that entire day just for filming. So I really don't know, what the park is like on a busier day. But from what I experienced, it very easily became one of my favorite parks. They have obviously a lot of coasters, with 14 currently in operation. I was only able to ride 12 because they have a kiddie coaster that adults aren't allowed on without a child, and then Nighthawk was down. But
oh, really?
Yeah, it's been down all season. It was fun to see the Firehawk trains. There's you could see the trains from Kings Island's defunct Firehawk over by Fury, so that was kind of fun. Anyway, that's an aside. But so I was prepared for there to be a lot of coasters, and I was prepared for Fury 325 to be amazing, which it was. But I think one of the things that surprised me the most was how good the depth of their lineup is. I really thought it would be, Fury's great, Copperhead, Afterburn, and even Intimidator are good, but then after that I did not expect to care at all about any of the other coasters. I was like, I'll get on them just to have gone on them, boost my coaster count, and then just get re-rides on that top 4. But I was actually really excited. I was really pleasantly surprised with pretty much every single coaster there, and I was very excited to get re-rides on them. I think there's only really like a couple rides that I didn't care for, and that, again, that was really surprising to me because I wasn't really too excited about much more than their top 4. But yeah, there's a lot of depth. Operations are really good at that park. I could tell they were lower on staffing, again, because when local schools are in session, that's obviously going to cut into your amusement park staffing.
Yeah, definitely.
But they made it work with what they had, which, as someone that's worked in the theme park industry for like many years now, I understand that that's difficult to do, but they did it. They did it with a smile most of the time. So operations were really good. It's a really pretty park as well. I spent a majority of my time in the 2 Carolinas at Carowinds and pretty much only at Carowinds. But that's such a lush green 2 states, at least from Charlotte to Carowinds, and the Airbnb that I stayed at in South Carolina, which is just like 15 miles south of the park. So again, a very limited stretch of those 2 states. But Carowinds is really pretty. That greenery carries over into the park,
which is not something I would have expected. Like, from all the stuff that I always see, it's always a picture of Fury or Intimidator. Or,
so yeah, exactly.
It's concrete,
so the with what gets covered, in most people's visits and videos about it and everything like that, it is all just coaster centric. And like the first vlog that I put out on Carowinds was also guilty of that. But the next one that's going to be coming out, like, I dive a little bit deeper into some of the cooler stuff. There's lots of Easter eggs around the park, surprisingly. Really? Cedar Fair theming Easter eggs.
Interesting.
Which is really fun. I know they've been doing that quite a bit at Kings Island as well. But yeah, my second day there, it rained, which drove all the crowds out and kept me from getting night rides, unfortunately. But the silver lining was I was forced to sort of explore more of the non-ride things to do at the park.
Which sometimes can be a complete blessing, because sometimes you
absolutely.
find, little gems like Camp Jurassic.
Dude, Camp Jurassic is the best. I genuinely still can't get over how good Camp Jurassic is. And there's not a ton of non-ride things to do, but like they do have a nice little arcade that I messed around in for a little bit. But they have this one like blue something country kitchen or whatever, and I spent an hour in there just looking at posters and like the nice decor that they had in there, and even by their boomerang flying cobras, they have themed posters up, and all of them just give little nods to Knott's Berry Farm, King's Dominion, King's Island. There's plenty of references to with the Miami River Lumber Company. There's nods to Calico in the Copperhead Strike line. So they just had like a bunch of posters up, specifically in like the Blue Ridge Junction area, which is where Copperhead Strike is, tying in theming to the various other Cedar Fair parks. So I had a blast just doing that. And again, you and I both appreciate how much shading can impact your day. So just the lush greenery being everywhere was super nice. The one thing that was a little odd, and this was kind of a issue for us at Cedar Point, was the queue lines have shade, but not always directly before the station. So since the lines were thankfully short, anytime I did have to wait, though, it was outdoors, like in the sun, which was a little weird, but they had a lot of queue shading if the line is like more than like 10 minutes or whatever. So like you at least don't have to spend a ton of time in the sun, but there's more than enough places to just like go off to the side and enjoy yourself. And like they have like I don't know if you watched the vlog or not, but there's like this
I made like sure ivy, not to.
Oh, okay, cool. So there's like this ivy tunnel. I don't know if it's ivy, but they have like some plants growing over this like tunnel, and it's like it was a 95-degree day the first time I went, and walking through this tunnel that's like covered by plants, it literally feels like it's like 75 degrees in there.
I mean,
so it's like there's a lot of it was like literally the best thing ever. It's like there's so many places that you can just like get out of the sun, but it's also like more than just like dipping into like a gift shop or whatever, which is kind of like, okay, like whatever, this is like, anywhere you go and it's hot. If you just go inside a building, it's obviously going to cool you down, but it's like you could still enjoy like being outdoors, getting some fresh air, but also not like burning your skin off. The Camp Snoopy area, for example, is a really great example of it. They left like one of their stadiums, like where they do like, I'm sure like Peanuts shows or whatever. They left one of their stadiums open just as like a seating area for people to get out of the sun. And then they have like these like lush canopies with benches like by this really pretty Snoopy and Woodstock fountain. I don't know. It's just, I went into it only really considering like coasters and a few coasters at that. But I was really pleasantly surprised with much more than that. So yeah, I don't know. It was a really great time. And then those 4 coasters were also wonderful.
Well, it's like for me, never being at that park before, only seeing it from a distance from my plane, I only think about those 4 coasters. Like that is the thing that draws me to that park. But from everything I've heard, it definitely seems to be one of the better, well-rounded parks overall in the Cedar Fair chain. Yeah, definitely.
So,
I mean, obviously you have your star attractions like Fury, Copperhead, Intimidator, Afterburn. But outside of that, it definitely seems to be a more accommodating park for just non-thrill seekers as well, even though they have 14 coasters.
They have a really good collection of flat rides, and then they also have a water park that's included with admission. So I think you're really totally right with it being like accommodating. Like it's welcoming to all demographics of people that would even be slightly interested in a theme park. I think if you don't like rides at all, it probably won't be the best place for you. But if you like rides in any capacity, whether it be like, they have a couple of dark rides. They have like shoot, I don't think it's Plants vs. Zombie. They have like a 4D
I'm pretty sure
shooting theater or whatever.
There used to be a Plants vs. Zombies, right? I don't know if it's there
It
anymore.
might be Plants vs. Zombie. It might be themed to something else. They definitely still have the attraction. So they have that, like if you're into dark rides. They have a Boo Blasters on Boo Hill, which is like an old school shooting dark ride. So they have a couple of dark rides even. They have a plethora of flat rides. Like they literally even have like 3 different swing flat rides. Like one's like a tiny one for kids. Then another one's like more your traditional like carnival style themed to like that has like the appearance of like a classic carousel. And then they have Windseeker, which is the one that takes you up like 200 feet or whatever. So they like literally have like different levels of classic flat rides to enjoy. They have a top scan. They have I don't know what the specific ride type is called, but one of those pirate ships that inverts. So they have thrilling rides for people that maybe don't like roller coasters. They have tame rides for people that don't like thrilling rides. They have a whole water park. They don't have any like water rides, but again, the water park is free admittance. So yeah, I don't know, man. They really do have, they have it all as far as rides are concerned. And even just the coaster lineup. I mean, you have a good like 3 or 4 rides for the smaller coaster enjoyers. You have some pretty good stepping stones to get up to the higher thrill coasters. And then obviously you have 4 really, really solid high thrill attractions. So yeah, I would, it's a great park for families, I think, in that respect. A lot of it is spread out as well too, because it's not. Okay. I mean, for the really, really tiny ones, obviously Camp Snoopy is where you're going to be spending your time, but it is nice that it's like, I want to go on Fury 325, but like little Timmy's like, no, that's too scary. It's like, okay, cool, well, you can go on the Wild Mouse, which is like 5 steps away, while the big kids go on Fury 325, and then we'll just meet up like 2 feet away.
Okay.
So it's like really cool from that regard. And it's a very easy park to navigate. A park with 14 coasters, like I'm envisioning, something like Magic Mountain or Cedar Point, where it's like, okay, well, we're going to get our rides in this section of the park, and then that'll probably be it for the day because we have to go on to other stuff. It's like, no, if I want to go from one end of the park to the other because those are the rides that I want to ride, I can do that within a matter of like 10 minutes because it's a really easy park to navigate as well. So I think that aspect of it was really awesome and really allowed me to enjoy it to the fullest. I don't know, man. It has a lot going for it. It looks nice too, like aside from like just the natural like foliage and whatnot. Their landscaping is really good. You can tell that they actually like take care of the park. A lot of the areas look newly renovated and are like super clean. Like kind of, I guess, think of like the aesthetic of like the front of Cedar Point, but then you also have like trees and more than just like concrete.
So if the front half of Cedar Point was nice, is what you're trying to say?
Well, yeah. So it's kind of like if the front half of Cedar Point, like you took the front half and the back half and just kind of mushed them all together throughout the park. It's kind of like that. Okay. So it's like no one area is like particularly one note. Yeah, no. It's really good.
So what I'm getting at, I think at this point is I need to go here because I realistically will have a better overall time than visiting a park like Cedar Point. At least personally, because I mean, I know the last time we went, we had, if you've seen either of our videos, we had definitely a rougher time with the park itself. The rides were fantastic, but everything else just fell pretty flat.
Yeah, I think that is the case. Again, that's why the only reason I'm hesitant to like definitely be like yes, absolutely, is because the first time I visited Cedar Point was drastically different from when you and I went.
Which yeah, I can understand, because obviously every park is going to have a good week, a bad week, a good day, bad day.
Yeah, absolutely.
There are so many things that go into a park day, but I just feel like Carowinds, from what you're describing and what I can see on the map in front of me, is that there really just is this abundance of just a real purposeful mix of attractions, as well as the fact that you can the fact that you can enter the water park with your admission is a huge thing. I think that's amazing. You're pretty much getting 2 parks for the price of 1, which I've always loved at parks. I think that's fantastic. And then in addition to that, of course, you talking about the cleanliness, the shade. How was the food? Was the food any good?
I will be completely honest. The food was probably, because I ate a lot at the park. I bought a dining plan literally just for this trip. I didn't have any bad food. I'll start with that. And they have a very good variety of food. But as far as like quality of each individual location, it's standard. It's standard for sure. But I mean, like there was surprisingly a good amount of like healthier options. Like on the first day, I had this like nice salad that actually had like grilled vegetables in it, which is like, okay, that's like a fun option as opposed to just like a crummy little side salad is like the only thing you can have to eat healthy. They have barbecue like under heat lamps, like a lot of parks do. And I will say the barbecue was definitely better than Cedar Point's because it was like hot.
Oh, wow. Hot barbecue.
Yeah, I know. Hot food, right? Can you imagine? But so it was like even if it wasn't like the most amazing thing I ever had in my life, it was still like there was like definitely things that I could appreciate about it. And at that country kitchen in the Blue Ridge Junction part of the park, I had like some good smoked sausage or whatever. So they had good variety. I mean, they have like pizza, other Italian food as well. They have barbecue. They have like fresh options. They have a Chickies and Pete's. A lot of indoor places to sit as well, which is really awesome.
That's
I kind of hate it when like parks kind of just have like, the windows where you pick your food up and it's like either a table with an umbrella or more likely a table without an umbrella that you have to eat at. And it's like
big complaint about
when
Cedar
you're taking
Point,
your food, when you're taking your food break, it's like you're eating because you need a second to rest and like recharge. So it's like so valuable to have a plethora of indoor seating options. And definitely. They have this place called Harmony Hall, which is just like their big food court that has like the most options. And like it's right next to the Panda Express as well. And there's so much seating in there. So like if you get food from anywhere in the park, you are no more than a like 5-minute walk from like the nearest indoor dining area. And you're at least within 10 minutes of like the indoor dining hall where it's just like great air conditioning. They have live performances in there a lot too. I don't think they had any when I was there. So I don't know. A lot of stuff that goes overlooked at parks sometimes is like what happens in your downtime. And I feel like I had very valuable downtime at Carowinds, which allowed me to have more valuable uptime as well. So I appreciate it from that perspective for sure.
Yeah, because I think that was our biggest problem with Cedar Point was our downtime. Whenever we tried to get food, there was always something going absolutely abhorrently wrong, or we were just trying to relax and that would go awry. When we were trying to ride coasters, usually that went okay with some exceptions in there. But
we had so many points where like by the end of the day we're just like we had to call it early, and it's like we're coaster enthusiasts. We should be riding coasters from park open to park close. Like, there's no reason we should be calling it in early just because we don't have it in us to stay at the park a little longer. So yeah.
And I mean, with that downtime
perspective,
if you're able to recharge properly, then why not go all the way to the end of the night?
Yeah.
Like that ends up being a huge factor in how your day goes. And if a park like Carowinds can recharge you like in the right ways, and boom, you've got delicious food, some nice shade, it's cool, AC, whatever it is, you're more willing to keep going to the end of the night. And I think that could totally change someone's trip, from getting upset at something and leaving an hour and a half early, or getting that last night ride on Fury.
Right. I mean, well, because like at Cedar Point too, there was like times where we'd have to sleep in like 2 hours the next day because we were just so dead from the day prior.
Yeah, because
every day at Carowinds I was able to go open to close.
And a lot of that I think was because of the sun, because of the lack of shade.
Absolutely.
We were just beaten down by the sun constantly. Just And also we weren't able to get food sometimes, or the only food we were able to get was a stale hot dog, because they closed the restaurants.
That's the other thing
early.
too, is they closed. The park was very empty, so they closed a lot of the locations, but they did leave that main dining location open till, I believe, close every single day that I was there.
Okay.
So that was also very important to me.
That makes a lot more sense to me than, closing some of your major restaurants and only leaving one tiny stand as your only option.
Yes, it was the stands and like the restaurants in the back of the park that were closing down. But yeah, at Cedar Point, they genuinely did just close like the major food locations. And like you said, it was like the corn dog stand is the only place that had any food. And that was a full hour before close versus like literally like 10 minutes before close, which is when I had dinner a couple times. So
I love how this
that.
is just becoming Cedar Point bad, Carowinds good. I promise that's not the purpose of this. I can't help but have a sour taste left in my mouth after our visit to Cedar Point, and people still, going out of their way to be like, this is the best place ever. Personally,
there's so
I did
much
not
more
have
that goes into
experience.
enjoyment at a park. There's so much more that goes into enjoyment at a park than coasters, because like I'm not going to pretend that like Cedar Point doesn't have a better overall lineup than Carowinds. I mean, Carowinds does come closer than I would have expected, but like, when it comes to overall experience, I think they're a lot more comparable, and Carowinds definitely pulls a lot more weight when it comes to the, literally anything other than coasters, to be honest. I mean, I will say, I think it would have been fun if they had more entertainment options as well. Like I said, like they had a stage in that dining hall that didn't have any performances going on when I was there personally.
Maybe
so
that's
I think
just a
more
later
of their
in the year
entertainment
thing.
is just, more of their entertainment is definitely just seasonal.
Mm-hmm.
But like from the perspective of like doing non-coaster things or doing like things that like you can recharge while enjoying, I definitely would have. It would be better if there were a couple other entertainment esque attractions as opposed to just rides, I guess. That's probably like one of the only criticisms I could have. I mean, there's like some small stuff, like some of the operations were slower on the coasters, but it wasn't particularly due to like operators moving slow. It was like Vortex, their stand-up coaster, for example. They have to go like row by row, unlocking and relocking the restraints to make sure that the standing position is comfortable for everybody. So it's like, okay, well, that's just inherently going to take a longer time than your typical coaster to dispatch. So it's like even like small things that you could find issues with, it's like not particularly a problem, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like it might be a negative, but it's not a problem that I have.
Well,
like
I just looked up,
speaking of food, like there was one of the, at Chickies and Pete's, there was only like one person that was able to take orders. So like they were having to help people with their drink plan. And so that took a little bit longer, but it's like, okay, well, if there's only one person, like,
totally understood.
Not much, nothing you can do. Yeah. So, I don't know.
Yeah. Instead of,
what were you saying?
There being 5 people at the hot dog stand, and
instead of literally just being ignored when you're standing there waiting to order,
and talking to friends
no one's
instead
talking
of
to you.
Helping.
Right, and
get
that's
the
not
line of
specific to that
15
corn
down.
dog stand, because that happened to us at Johnny Rockets at Cedar Point as well when I went with my family and multiple other places. But yeah, no, I mean, I never had an issue with service particularly.
Going back to entertainment, though. I just looked up the entertainment options they have at Carowinds. It's pretty sparse, to be honest. They have a couple of like small music groups. They have a Camp Snoopy show, and then they have Beach Blanket Beagle, which is like their top of the line like musical act.
I will say, so like in regards to like the music or whatever, I forget what the first thing you said was, but they have like the 325s or whatever. It's like this band that plays over by Fury, and that is really nice, and it like adds to like the energy of the area for sure to have live music going on. So I have to give them credit there, but it's not like an attraction that you go and do specifically. You know what I mean? It's
the only one that would
to
be
the
that
ambiance of the area
is Beach Blanket Beagle, most likely. Which I forget what dates you were there on, but it started on weekends, June 4th. So,
okay, yeah. That was the last day I was there, and I was just getting footage of stuff. So yeah.
Okay.
And I say that it'd be nicer if they had more stuff, and then you bring that up, and I probably wouldn't have seen that anyway. But you know,
but still, the option would have.
To be honest,
there.
though, that's at least that's like targeted towards kids, where that's going to be like the more important demographic to cover, since they can't do more of the bigger attractions and stuff. So at least that's nice. And also, again, from like a staffing perspective too, it's probably much more of a priority to make sure you have enough people to make sure all of your permanent attractions are capable of operating versus, you know, a show that people aren't going to be as excited about as the major attractions. So
yeah, definitely. So we've talked a lot about Carowinds so far. We're going to keep talking about Carowinds because it's exciting, and you were there for so long, and you were the only person there for so long.
I was.
I mean,
I had the entire park to myself. That's how
out
empty
of the two
it was.
of us. You were the only of the two of us to make it out.
Yes.
I'm not jealous at all. You know, I seriously, if flights weren't $500, I would have been there, straight up.
No, it definitely, dude. It definitely sucks how impossible it is to do at least multiple cross country trips.
Yeah,
because flights from here to anywhere else on the East Coast are so cheap comparatively. It's messed up. It's tough. It's tough for a West Coast enthusiast.
I'm looking to do one trip this summer, and the flights are going upwards of $600 now, and I'm like, I don't think I can do that. And that's for like a Spirit flight, by the way. It's not even. It's not even disgusting. Like, you know,
that's literally disgusting.
That's like ultra low cost carrier, you know, in comparison to something like American or Delta. Those flights are 800 plus. So
I can stomach a Spirit or Frontier flight if I'm only flying for 2 hours also, because it would be that for 5 hours. It
would be about 4, maybe 4.5 hours, I think.
Yeah, right.
Which it gets a little rough then. But yeah, so that's kind of a bummer. But speaking of flying, bad transition time. Fury. Tell me everything. Well, not everything. You got a review coming out, I'm sure, eventually. But I really want to hear about it.
First of all, it's not a flying coaster.
I mean, I know it's not a flying coaster, but you're going so fast, it must feel like you're flying, at least in some portions of it.
Yeah. And I'd actually say, you know, the only other Giga coaster I've been on is Millennium Force. And that's definitely one of the, probably maybe the only parallel between the two coasters too, is that the speed at which you're flying at is definitely one of the highlights, if not the best part of the ride for sure. But in addition, Fury just has so much other stuff going for it. I was not prepared for how forceful it is, because you see it flying through through its layout, and I mean, B&Ms are always just going to look graceful, whether it's an invert or a hyper coaster. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
Montu going through its layout. I mean, sure, you see it ripping through the elements super quickly, but it's still like visually is graceful as all heck. I mean, every single B&M is. So I think I wasn't prepared for how intense the positives were going to be in some spots, because I'm just like seeing it going fast, and I'm like, oh, fast ride. And then, you know, I'm seeing B&M, and I'm like, ooh, pretty. So like you hit the bottom of the first drop and you're just like, oh my God, my face is melting. And then that first turnaround, which when you see like any POVs of it, you're like, okay, this is a turn. I don't really care about turns. It was the same thing for me with Maverick, actually. Like watching POVs of that, I'm like, okay, well, these whippy transitions are, you know, okay, they're just turns. But you go into that overbank turn, And it's not super tall relative to the first drop. It's like half the height of the first drop. So you're pulling positive G's through that. And then like at that point, you're already just like, I thought I'm going on like an airtime like / speed ride. Like I didn't think I was going to be experiencing like 5+ seconds of sustained positive G-forces. Like what is going on? And then the pull out of that is good. You go to those like low to the ground twisty turns over the entrance and all that stuff, which those are fun. I was hoping those would offer like a little more by the way of like laterals. Okay. But again, the main takeaway of those is just like super fast speed, and that is just such like an awesome entryway as well.
Yeah, it looks fantastic.
You have like literally. You have literally every single guest gawking over it. You know what I mean? And it's like, you know, Carowinds is not only attracting coaster enthusiasts. So these are just like average everyday people going, holy heck, look at that thing. That's crazy. Yeah. So it's very interesting and fun to have like a relatability on that level from like the general public to an enthusiast of like everyone is just super hyped to be seeing that.
Well, in the grand scheme of things, it is one of the more known coasters in the US too. Like there are a bunch of random people that know nothing about coasters and they're like, you ever heard of the Fury? You know, like
interesting. Okay.
I don't know why I made them Southern. Like they live in.
Well, I mean, Carowinds is in the
South. But yeah, no, it is definitely one of the more known rides for sure. Whether they know it's at Carowinds or not, no clue.
Right.
But the look of it is just, it's spectacular even in photos. I mean, some of your photos that you've been posting are just, you know, it's freaking amazing.
Thank you.
Especially that rainbow picture. Ooh, the fact that you were able to get,
so that was
so good.
That was another silver lining of being there after rain is, dude, some of the Fury views were just incredible, and obviously the pictures don't do it justice. I'm just like, I'm walking out of Carowinds after getting like rain rides on Fury 325, and I'm like walking under the archway of track into a rainbow. I'm like, what?
You're awful, you know that?
Well, and that's also why I say, like, you know, like, I mean, I might be giving maybe the park too much credit, or like, you know, there's some bias there just because maybe I had like an exceptionally good experience. But yeah, anyway, like that whole part where you're going over the entranceway or entranceways, really, like I wasn't really familiar with how the entrance into Carowinds has like multiple paths, and basically they all just converge into like the security / turnstile area. But I thought it was just like the one pathway over that really low to the ground turn and like over the tunnel. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like in between like the treble clef and like the turns that fly over that pathway.
Right at state line.
Yeah, right on the state line, exactly. But there's pathways that come from like both the left of that and like the right of it. There's like 3, maybe even more pathways that all just come together. So you have like people from like the far north side of the parking lot and like the far south side of the parking lot all converging on this one spot. So there's so many cool views of it. So yeah, I wasn't aware of that Fury like literally goes over like almost the entirety of it is like built over pathways, or at least like this lawn that you're like allowed to walk on and go under and stuff. So that was really cool.
Well, I know when they built it, they redid the parking infrastructure at the park. So like all of that is brand new. I mean, brand new being relative, it's been 7 years now.
Right, like 2017 or whatever. Or 15.
It's just it's very cool that they did that. They didn't really have to go out of their way to make the 3 separate entrances converging into state line, and making this really cool, beautiful entrance with Fury going right above it. But they were like, let's tear out this part of parking, put some more parking, way back where, it's going to take a little while to walk. But
no, I
think
they
really made something special with that entrance for sure.
Yeah. It's really nice, and it sets the tone for like the park, and even like I saw like families that like were clearly not gonna have anything to do with Fury 325, still like, being in awe of just what it's doing. like not looking at it as like, oh, I can't wait to go on that, but looking at it like, holy heck, did you guys see that? Like, it's just
like that's
crazy to see a coaster flying that fast. Yeah. Especially like, you know, inches away from you. Like literally just like families like pushing a stroller that are obviously just going to go straight to Camp Snoopy, still being like hyped up by seeing that at all.
Definitely.
I guess it's just like comparable to seeing like a really like cool plane like flying overhead. It's like, yeah, you're not going to be like inside of that cockpit, but it's like still really crazy to see that flying like right over your head or whatever.
Definitely.
But yeah, dude, again, more positives too, as you like the treble clef. I was most excited for that, for like the sideways airtime, which is still really great. But dude, positive G-forces when you have a turn that is going upwards that gets like progressively smaller, or like the turning radius gets progressively tighter as you go up. Like those are the most like surprising positive G-forces always. Cause I think when you typically go into like an overbanked turn or something like that, like the positive G-forces start out strong, but then obviously like the higher you get, the weaker they become. But when you have a turn that gets progressively tighter, it's similar to like that helix on Rip Ride Rocket, honestly.
Okay.
When you have a helix that gets progressively tighter, you're just like, oh my God, the forces aren't letting up. Like I'm going higher up, so I'm expecting forces to get less pronounced, but they don't. And that's exactly the effect you experience on the treble clef. And that completely threw me off guard. And it was really welcome at that point too, because like the positive G's from like the first part of the ride finally have worn off. And then like you're getting another dose of them there and then getting like thrown out of your seat. So yeah, the positives were really surprising. And then you have like those airtime finales that were a bit stronger than I expected, honestly, because I expected them to just be kind of like B&M Hyper like floater hills, but dang, they eject you out of them, and especially depending on how much the trim engages and like the weight of the train, how fast everything's going, they can give you some good ejector. Which, like
I watched a couple reviews
expecting
before you went, and that was always the one lull of the ride for a lot of people. They kept saying it was like the boring part of the ride. Was like the airtime hill after the hive dive and the helix. And I'm just sitting there like, even with the trims enacted,
dude, people make such a big stink about trims. People make really such a big stink about trims. I'll get into that later, but
pet peeve.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just it's cool to hear your perspective on it, because I know usually we're pretty agreeable on things when it comes to coasters. Sometimes we have our differences, you know, because we are different people. But hearing your perspective on this is just making me more excited for it, because I would have never thought there were as many positive G's as you're talking about. You know?
No one talks about it. Everyone talks about the speed, which is understandable because that's probably the most impressive part about it. But I was just like, dang, dude, like I was expecting to just ride this all trip, but I don't know if I could, just because it's intense, man. I didn't expect it to be so intense. Kind of like Gwazi, like relative to other RMCs. You're like, what? I can't even like marathon this. Like, what?
Yeah, definitely.
So like there's Gwazi parallels in that regard.
Which again makes me even more excited, because I know how Gwazi is compared to most of the other RMCs. I will say Outlaw's up there in terms of intensity, but I think that's because of the topper track, honestly. I wouldn't say it's as intense necessarily, but you know, we gotta wait for the review for that one. But
like sort of yeah.
Speaking of trims, there's a ride at that park that is commonly referred to as Intimidator.
Bro, yeah, that's so stupid, dude. There was literally another person on one of the rides that I got on Intimidator that I'd have to assume is a coaster enthusiast that was literally cussing out the trims. And he's there by himself, bro. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with you? Can you not just enjoy the coaster? Like, if you were just the average guest and you didn't know that there was specifically something slowing you down, you would just be like, I'm getting really fun floater airtime. Or you probably wouldn't think that if you weren't a coaster enthusiast. You'd be like, I'm floating out of my seat. This is so fun. You wouldn't go, F you to the trim brake. It's like, dude, what is wrong with you? I do think like it was nice going into that ride knowing that the trims are a common complaint that people have. But again, like, I don't know, were you ever bothered by any of your rides where Mako gets slowed down by its trim? Like that trimmed airtime hill is still one of the better hills on that ride.
I will say, it would bother me. It would bother me for maybe 5 seconds at most. Like, it'd be like, oh, dang it. And then you keep going. Like, I will say it's more noticeable in the back because the train hits it before you hit it as a whole. Where in the front, it's one of the most forceful airtime moments on the entire ride. You know, and you barely feel it. So it's another reason I prefer the front on Mako, but that's a different story. But yeah, the trims, I mean, even if they hit as hard as possible, it's still like, oh man, darn. Airtime hill.
Well, that's the only thing I'll say.
You know, it's like, it's really not that big of a deal.
If they engage like particularly hard, like to the point where you can feel yourself lurching forward a little bit, it takes away from that perspective. It takes away from the flow of the ride a little bit. But if it's literally just there to gauge, to speed check the ride essentially, and make sure that the airtime is going to be what was intended by the designers of the ride, there's no problem with that. It's meant to provide floater airtime. So yes, it is going to slow you down and prevent you from getting ejected out of your seat because that's the way it's supposed to go. And it's such good floater airtime. I think with the longer trains too, like it slows it down so briefly, like it'll engage for a second and then it's off. So pretty much no matter where I was sitting, like you only feel it for like, you know, like a tenth of the time that the train is physically passing through it. In the back, you would regain all your speed by the time you're cresting the hill. In the front, you get popped up out of your seat anyway, which is again like what you said with Mako. I prefer the front row of Intimidator as well. Okay. Because for many reasons, but yeah, the trims, dude. Yes, there's a lot of them. They didn't affect the ride experience. Like they did not bother me in the slightest.
Yeah, that doesn't shock me. That really doesn't shock me, especially after I was able to experience Mako. People make such a big fuss about it. It's like, oh no, it'll only be negative 0.8 Gs instead of negative 0.9. Right. You know, it's like,
right, yeah, exactly, 100%. Like it's like, yes, I could see why if you were not expecting it at all, you could be like, oh, okay, like that was a little weird slowing down right here. But I mean, with how much of a stink people make about trims, you would think that it completely removed any airtime altogether, and it doesn't even come close to doing that.
Yeah, you still get crazy airtime.
It's so silly. Yeah. But yeah, dude, front row, especially like with how long the trains are. You liked Millennium Force like way better in the front, right? Like you were not that big of a fan in the back.
100%. Yeah, front row ride definitely for me.
And it's for the exact same reasons. While maybe you get technically like stronger airtime in the back row, the increased duration of airtime that you're getting in the front is far superior in my opinion, because it aggressively like pops you out of your seat a little bit and then you float for the entirety of the hill. Whereas in the back row, you don't even begin to come out of your seat until you've already crested the peak of the hill.
You've already gone over the
Whereas
apex,
in the front, once you start leveling out at all is when you start coming out of your seat. So it's like literally twice as much airtime as far as duration goes if you're sitting in the front. Whereas in the back, it's like you said, like 0.1 G stronger of airtime. So I find it very interesting that people tend to prefer hypercoasters in the back row. Because if the whole point is like sustained airtime, I feel like it's so much more sustained in the front. How is that not better? But to each their own.
Yeah. I gotta ask though, you've been on Diamondback, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. How do you feel about that seating style compared to the four
the seating
per row.
style.
Yeah, because Diamondback has the same as Intimidator, if I remember correctly.
Well, I'll tell you what, dude. As a single rider at a park that was doing a good job when they did have a grouper of filling as many seats as possible, I absolutely loved sitting in the. Well, I guess for anyone that's not aware, like, look at my fingers. These are like the front two seats of the car, and these are like the back two seats of the car. So the front two are together like your typical B&M Hyper, but then the two behind it are like a good like 5 feet apart. So as a single rider, I absolutely loved not having to sit next to anybody. Yeah. And it's super cool in those back seats because you there's nothing surrounding you. Mm-hmm. It was so fun. So I prefer that seating arrangement. However, the traditional B&M Hyper trains, I think, do navigate a layout a little more effectively, for lack of a better word. They just flow better. Like, you can definitely see from off-ride how slowly Intimidator navigates all its elements. Like, it really does end up having the entire train around.
Yeah, it has a much longer train due to that seating style. So,
but as far as the seating style itself, I love it.
Okay.
The trains, it's up for debate, but the seating style itself, much, much preferred.
You know what?
Even in the two seats that are together, it's like you at least have one whole side open to you. It's so much more open, and that's definitely makes it much more enjoyable, in my opinion.
Who needs capacity? Just make it 3 cars long.
Make it 1 car long, bro. I mean, that would be an incredible ride experience. I'm not even gonna lie, but
that would be very interesting to see how that would all work out. To be honest, but.
I feel like it would zip through like so quickly. I don't know.
That or it wouldn't have enough. I don't know. I'm not a physicist. I can't.
Yeah,
I'm not an engineer.
Yeah.
Maybe it wouldn't even make it past the first hill. I have no idea. But yeah, it's an interesting idea. Then again, we do have wild mouses. Ew, I hate saying mouses.
Mouses. It is mouses, though.
I know it's mouses.
It's a fun little side conversation to get into. It's definitely wild mouses.
Imagine that car on a Hyper. That would be dreams come true. I'm kidding.
Oh God, we're gonna imagine a zero train on an RMC. Wow.
You know what? You should imagine X2 on Fury.
What?
Oh man. So we've talked in length about 2 of the rides there. I figure we probably don't have too much time left.
Yeah, we're at like 55 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, we'll probably add a lot less than 55 minutes because of all the tomfoolery before. Somewhere around 50.
I will say, I am very curious to see your thoughts on specifically Copperhead Strike.
Can you see them?
No,
No, darn! I was trying.
What do you? Oh,
what you wanted to see my thoughts? So I was trying to use telepathy, but it didn't work. Clearly, I
heard good theming, launch fun. That's what I heard.
Yeah. So the launch was actually more fun than I expected because, I mean, mock launches are kind of infamous for being just a means of getting the ride to its top speed as opposed to like an impactful element of its own. So the first launch has like a brief kick to it, like a quick little jolt, and then the rest of it is just getting you up to speed. Think almost first launch on Cheetah Hunt, which is just like a little pop. And it's like you're only going like 10 miles per hour or whatever, but the pop is like, it's like, oh wow, that's a little jolt. That's nice. So that was slightly better than I expected. Definitely far from the best part of the ride. But yeah, dude, walking through the queue, there's a really good amount of theming. Lots of stuff, telling you like to turn back, that there's like snakes in the area.
That seems to be a common theme with rides. don't go in here. Turn back.
Right. Like Velocicoaster. No, you don't want to ride this. Don't ride it. Don't ride it. Don't ride it.
Or Mystic Timbers, or
yep.
Literally anything. Matterhorn.
Literally anything. Yeah. Right. But yeah, so I think pretty much any part of the queue line, even starting like before you actually enter the line, there is something to look at, which is awesome. Like, it's not just like, oh, okay, you know, as you get to like closer to the loading area, there's stuff, or like at the very front entrance, there's things to look at. But there is at least some amount of theming visible, or like it right in front of you, even at any point in the line. So like that was really fun. It was kind of weird. The queue doesn't have points where you can extend or de-extend it. So when there's no line, you have to walk through all of the switchbacks.
That
or
can
like
get
you, or there's
sure.
people going under the rails. I didn't, of course. You know, I would never do that. But
yeah, we're the weirdos that actually walk around each switchback.
Yeah, I do that every time. There wasn't a single time that I digged
Mario,
under any railing at all.
Naughty boy. Never mind, I'm the weirdo that walks around every switchback.
Dude, I would, but it's just like I would have been getting cut by everybody.
Yeah, I mean, that happens. It's always funny when I'm with a group and they just all like duck under and I'm just walking around and they're like, dude, what are you doing? And I'm like,
well, okay, at least when you're with a group and other people are doing that, it's like, okay, well, at least you'll catch up with them. But it's like, I'm just letting like, you know, like 5 different parties in front of me. Anyway, so it would have been nice if they had like, you know, a couple places where there was chains. It's really weird. I feel like I can't off the top of my head think of any other ride that has that. I know very few do. So that was like probably the only downside of the queue. But yeah, the whole launch section like actually has like, I mean, I don't know if you want spoilers or not. I don't, you know, so spoiler alert for anyone.
Well, if you're talking about the like theming, I've known about that since it opened.
Oh, so, okay, yeah. I guess I didn't know that there was a screen. There's a screen.
Yeah.
I had no idea. And it was quality wise. I don't necessarily know about like story wise because it was a little convoluted, but like quality wise, as good as like the again, spoiler for Velocicoaster, so skip even further ahead. As good as the launch section for Velocicoaster.
Okay.
If not better even, because there's like more of a set built around it.
Yeah, that is
like
one like, kind of bummer with Velocicoaster.
It's not a diss to Velocicoaster at all because it works for what it is. I mean, they're just like animals in metal cages. So it's like, how much are you going to do to metal cages?
That's true.
But
that's true.
There's like so much different stuff to look at in there. And I didn't know there was a screen with like characters talking and stuff. And then like when you walk in, when you first come into the shed too, like a puff of air goes off like in this chicken coop. I personally didn't really know what the hell was going on, but I was like, oh my God, there's lots of stuff happening here, and lighting effects and I was like, oh cool. I didn't expect that. I thought it was just going to be, you know, going into a room with a couple of like set pieces around, you know, that were just kind of like thrown together or whatever. But there were multiple things happening.
I think
and one of the things that was really cool, dude, when you get off of the ride, you can actually, there's like this window with a bunch of like wood textured and like it has like the appearance of wood decals stuck onto the window, so it looks like you're peeking through like these little cracks in the barn to look down at the launch.
That's cool.
It was really cool, like a little peeksy from off-ride.
The details make it.
Yeah, no, for real. I was like, oh dang, that's so cool. And like people didn't even notice it until they saw me stopping and like going to look at it. So it was like a little fun, you know, a little more depth than like your typical like theming and visuals from off-ride of a coaster or whatever.
I will say, I think I remember the story being you stumbling on a moonshine operation, that they're using like the venom of the copperheads to make the moonshine or something like that. If I remember, they're pretending
it's like a jam farm or whatever.
So it is. It is a little more complicated, but
I think if I stopped and spent time looking at the stuff in line, I think it would have been a little more flushed out.
That's fair.
Versus just being like, no line, let's go on ride. so I mean, part of that's on me as well. But at the end of the day, also like if it looks cool, who really cares too, So
that's
I think
fair.
I think that was really nice. Even not onboard audio, but even like speakers when you hit the brake run, like with I guess like the main characters of the attraction being like, oh darn, we lost them when you make it to the end of the ride, because I guess you get caught snooping around in their operation, and then you end up running away from them.
Yeah.
So I was able to at least pick up on that plot point. So it was cool that they had like even like after the ride was over, they had a little bit more of the theming, at least coming at you in audio form.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but I mean, the ride is perfectly well rounded. I mean, I'm not going to say it's like a perfect coaster or whatever, but I think lately I've really been appreciating coasters that like hit on every mark. And I mean, you have some positive G-forces. You have ejector moments, which I was expecting. You have some good floater moments with the second launch and the step up into that like 0G stall situation. Very, very light floater there. A couple of really whippy lateral moments, and then obviously some great hang time where you're like genuinely dangling out of your seat, and then some like floater hang time. Like it hit pretty much like every single mark that you want a coaster to. So I was really surprised with how satisfied the ride left you feeling.
That's fair.
A long ride too, man. It's like a full minute.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's the case for all the rides at the park, dude. It's so good, dude. The first ride on it, I just let myself go limp. I'm like, this is what I wanted.
I completely forgot that was on that ride because we were so like fascinated by the theming at the launch,
Yeah, you kind of do forget about it, right? Because if a ride has a launch, that's typically where it's starting.
Yeah.
I mean, at least its first launch if it's a multi-launch. But it's so good, dude. Catches everyone off guard, and there was a couple times too where people on the train were freaking out at me not holding on and just letting myself go. Yeah, it was so good, dude. Yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those coasters that you could ride again and again, and it just makes you smile, and
It's not a perfect coaster, but like for what it is perfect.
Yeah. As far as forces go, it's almost perfect for sure. The only downsides is like, it's obviously not like as thrilling as Fury 325 because you're not going like as fast as like humanly possible, or like there's a little like rattle to it or whatever. And then there's some spots that aren't like maybe the most exciting or intense or whatever, but like it pretty much checks every box, and like you can't ask for much more from a coaster, really.
Yeah. So I guess with that though, we'll probably end up wrapping things up here. It's been a joy to do these again. I hope we can keep them up eventually.
That's what she said.
Man, I was hoping I didn't have to cut anything. Anyway. But with that said, thank you, Mario. This was fun.
Oh, thank you. I feel like all I did was talk.
I mean, that's literally what a podcast is. We just talk. Like,
yeah, well,
that's the whole point.
I feel like I talked too much more than you.
Well, yeah, this was your episode, man. You went to Carowinds. I did not.
What do you think of Carowinds, Drew?
I sat at home while seeing your stories.
Let's take a couple extra minutes of the podcast and hear your thoughts on Carowinds.
What do you want me to... It looks nice.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty great, too, from what you're saying. Oh man.
Anyways, now we can end it. Now that we have your thoughts.
We can wrap it up because I gave my thoughts on Carowinds. Thanks, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate it. Oh man. With that said, I hope you enjoyed our. I guess this would technically be our 5th podcast if you include that other one. That other one with Cliff. Oh man, I've been editing that lately. It's something.
It's a doozy. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess you guys have seen that one, or at least maybe tried to watch that one if you're watching this one now. And sorry,
It's so funny though. It really is. It's just chaos. I've been it's fun to watch. It's just tough to edit because there's so many cuts I gotta do.
If you guys like this podcast, though, subscribe.
Yeah, we do have a YouTube channel for Loopy Doods. This I think is going to be the first episode where it will be posted on that channel as well. I'm going to have all of those go public for prior to this episode.
So subscribe to that.
Yeah, make sure to go subscribe to that because we're eventually going to take it off of the Parks Bros YouTube channel and specifically have it on the Loopy Doods channel. So if you enjoy this, obviously you do if you watched for this long, make sure to go subscribe over there. And hopefully if enough people are watching, then we'll actually, go out to Apple Podcasts or Spotify or something like that and have it be more of a traditional podcast instead of just a video version. So with that said, though, Mario, any last thoughts?
Subscribe to Mostly Coasters.
Yeah, go subscribe to Mostly Coasters for sure. He's got fantastic content. Also, Parks Bros, if you'd like, you don't have to. I mean, obviously, you're already here, aren't you?
Yes.
Oh, man. But with all that said, what was our... Oh, that's right.
Oh, did we have like a thing we said?
We'll see you on the next ride. Wait, no.
No, that's your outro.
We'll see you on one more ride. Is that what?
Oh, but that's because we're not doing that.
Yeah, we're not doing that anymore.
Until next time, stay loopy, my friends. Just a little rip off. Stay thirsty, my friends. I don't always listen to podcasts, but when I do, I prefer Loopy Doods. Stay loopy, my friends.
All right. Stay loopy.